Hi guys, it's your girl Xee and Cyn, and we're back with another reaction video for you today, and we're checking out 3 American myths we don't believe anymore after living in Europe. And I'm getting this one from Baguette Bound. The link will be in the description below. Go over and show them some love. Tell them Xee and Cyn send you. We're going to jump right into this one because this is very interesting because there are a lot of myths and there are a lot of lies that has been sold to a lot of Americans, or Americans in general, or even sold outside to the outside world who wants to get to America. So we're now going to find out what is it that they're talking about. I already know, but Cyn needs to hear this one. So let's get right into this video. Here we go, right about now, baby.
There are 3 beliefs about life in the U.S. that Americans, including us, tend to grow up with.
I think we didn't even realize the extent to how ingrained these ideas are in the psyche of Americans until after we left the US.
Yeah.
It's almost a little like brainwashing.
A little bit. But now that we live abroad in France, we realize that these almost universally held American beliefs aren't really so true. Hi, I'm Raina.
I'm Jason.
And we're Baguette Bound.
When you grow up in the US, you're surrounded by American flags. You recite the Pledge of Allegiance every day in school, right? And you're told both directly and indirectly all the time that the US does everything the best. But then when you move somewhere else, for us it was France, you realize that lots of other places in the world actually do a little better.
Yeah, it sounds so ridiculous and egotistical, I know, but when you grow up in a country as big and as isolated from other countries as the US is, you just really genuinely don't know and haven't seen anything different. Then when you do see those other places and you realize like, whoa, there's places where people have like universal high quality healthcare and affordable education, and it's statistically much safer than the US. Like, it really just shocks your American brain. There's also this like weird, pervasive belief that because the US is the greatest country on earth, if they haven't figured it out, probably no one has.
Yeah. This can include some really basic things, even like basic water sanitation. We had friends and family that...
Guys, let's put it this way. Cyn grew up here, so Cyn knows what time it is. I came in here in my later years in my life. So she got sold the American dream. She got sold. And my kids are in the school system here. And they do. Somebody said to me in the comment section, oh, they don't recite the pledge anymore. Every morning,
every morning,
work here.
Every single day,
before I drive off, and that bell, because every morning when I drop my kids off, I don't just drive off after I drop. When the bell goes off, right after the bell goes off, those kids stand in the classroom and they say the pledge. Every single morning, 5 days a week. And yes, the flags are waving from as far as the eyes can see. The flags. I'm not saying they're not supposed to be proud of their country. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. But this dream and this stuff that they're told, like, America is the greatest place on earth, and there's nothing outside of this. And there's something I must say to this is that you will kind of feel that way. You know why? Because America is huge and everything is provided within America. Everything that you want to see and do, you can get that done because of how huge this place is. And it never really crossed my mind until after I did this video and I started to think about it. I'm like, you don't necessarily have to go outside of the US to get anything done, really.
Not really.
Because
a lot of people have passports too.
Exactly. So I'm like, but then it hits you when you hear somebody else talk about, did you know you don't have to walk on the cover of your shoulder? Did you know that you don't have to be in debt just to go to the doctor to check if you're okay? Did you know that your kids are not coming out of school with debt because they're going to college? Then it hits. And then you're like she said, it's a place where you think, if America can't do it, nobody else can. What do you think?
I mean, growing up, yes, America has its pros, but there are quite a bit of cons America has that America has not resolved. Like they're talking about water sanitation. In Flint, Michigan, I remember it's a huge thing back to this day. Their water's not clean. Like in Flint, Michigan, when they turn on their sinks, there's like brown, murky water that comes out the sink that the government, in a sense, like refuses to fix. It's like a whole hot mess. But there's so many issues that America has. Growing up from Africa to here, it was a lot of changes. It was like a lot of adjustment, getting used to here. But now I would say I am, in a sense, Americanized. I am. I grew up here majority of my life. I have not been back home since the age of 7, and I'm like 23 now. So like it's been a long time. I want to go back home. There's going to be also adjustment going back home because I'm not used to that anymore. There's some things that I'm used to, but some other things I'm not used to. The heat. The food, I'm always used to that. The food. But like you said, like there's like so many different things.
Yep. So yeah.
Came and visited us here in France recently, and they had to ask if they could drink the water. They'd actually brought with them a whole set of advanced water purification equipment, and they were brushing their teeth with bottled water at first before we could talk to them and assure them the tap water is perfectly safe.
France is another advanced country.
Yeah.
And we thought this was actually even more funny because Evian water from Evian, France sells in the US for like $5 a bottle. And so when you're in the US, you can drink French water, but not when you're in France. Oh no, struck us as a little funny.
Yeah. Another commonly held American truism is that Americans are somehow just more free than people in other democracies. Even our national anthem, which we sing all the time, it includes the line, the land of the free, the home of the brave. But what does that land of the free actually mean?
Right.
What liberties exactly do people have in the US that they don't have in so many other places around the world? Not long ago, we heard someone describe the difference in how Europeans and Americans view freedom. And it really struck home. It really captured the spirit of, I think, what we've observed here. I think that Americans want the freedom to, the freedom to carry a gun, to do what they want, when they want, to practice their religion openly, to choose how to spend all their money.
Yeah, and the contrast to that was the idea that Europeans are looking more, they see freedoms from. So freedom from the threat of violence, freedom from dying lack of due to healthcare, freedom from having a religion imposed on them, freedom from pollution and toxins in their environment and food. So I don't know, we were talking about this concept of what American freedom is. Feels like it's become really extreme in the last few years. Meaning in the US now, like certain groups expect their own personal freedoms to trump everything else, no matter the cost to society or their fellow Americans.
Yeah, and as an American...
I like it because that was slick but smart. If you didn't catch it, you wouldn't understand. I just love that. Messy, but I love it. Very messy. Oh my goodness.
I thought you would have catch it,
No, I caught it. I was like, oh, I know where this is going. I love how they say freedom to do this instead of freedom from. That's it. I never look at it that way. And I never, because at this truck here, a lot of people think that our freedom is by far the best freedom out there than other countries like the UK.
They're being controlled.
Like we have, like our freedom is just like,
this is what they call freedom.
Yeah, this is what's called freedom over here.
Yeah.
But.
And it's that's why I said, listen to this part, because when first time I heard they said it, I'm like, dang it. It made sense. Freedom from. You don't stress about going to the doctor. I just said it earlier. You don't stress about whether your kids go to the door and you don't hope they're wondering if they're coming back. You're safe.
Go ahead.
No. You can go ahead. I'm just saying freedom from. And these groups it's all about them and what they can gain.
Exactly.
But that's the American culture anyway.
Exactly. A lot of Americans prefer to stay at home being sick or whatever than going to the hospital because of that hospital bill. That is messed up. I wish America could get something similar to what they have over there.
Universal healthcare.
I want that so bad.
You said something to me the other day, and you're spot on with it. It is the what?
Yeah, capitalism.
Yeah.
Capitalism? Baby, it's number one here.
That's what runs America. They will forever fight universal healthcare. And not only that, some rich people or wealthy people or upper class people are not going to want to, because based on my income, I have to pay more in for taxes because of healthcare. And the persons who are not making that much wage has to pay less in healthcare. But if you don't do that, it won't be balanced out. And that is how the European region does it. They're like, look, you make more money, you pay more taxes. But remember, it was a big thing when they were saying, okay, more business people are got to have to pay taxes, and it was a big thing. And the subliminal name that you saw on that thing was like, no, we ain't gonna do that. No. We're going to save these upper class.
Yeah. I love that.
Let's continue. But they are so right on this one.
The intensity of this individualism, I think it can color how you view the policies of the other countries out there.
Definitely.
Because you don't always realize or have the context to realize that these policies, they might mean different forms of freedom and still make for a more stable, fair, open, and enjoyable society.
True.
Yeah. So, lastly, the thing that has changed that we see differently now is quality of life and how we define it. In the US, when we lived there, versus now in France and Europe. When I was a kid in the US, my definition of like what quality of life or growing up and being able to have a good life was, it kind of revolved around how much money I could make when I grew up.
Yep.
That sounds embarrassingly materialistic, and it kind of is. But the honest thing is to be able to buy more, bigger, nicer, better things. It's just like a big focus of American culture. You see it on TV and movies and advertisements. So, that soaks in even when you're a kid.
Yep.
The house you can buy, the car you can drive, the size of the TV you have. If you buy your clothes or your candles from like certain shops, that all kind of paints a picture and defines if you have a good quality of life in U.S. culture.
Yeah, I think, and maybe in other words, being visibly wealthy is just a stand-in for quality of life in the U.S.
Yep.
So I think American people will sometimes say that the quality of life is lower in Europe. And why? Because that's what you can see. Europeans tend to make less money, have lower incomes. They live in smaller houses. They have fewer cars. They have tiny refrigerators. There's often no clothes dryers. What kind of place is this?
See this video.
Yeah. But we've come to understand that Europeans tend to have, I think they tend to be wealthier than Americans in two really distinct ways that might be hard to see from the outside, but maybe probably define quality of life better than a simple GDP number or the number of seats in your SUV might capture. I think Europeans tend to have both more time and more peace of mind.
Yeah. I am not saying in any way that the French or Europeans in general they don't have worries.
That is beautifully put. Work-life balance when it comes on to the European side. That European people do. More quality time with family. Yes. More quality time with oneself. Less stress. So they're and they're, like she said, we're not saying that they don't have problems, but it's not problems like healthcare and stuff like that you have to pawn over. You understand? You have to do something else. But American lifestyle, we gotta keep up with the Joneses.
Yes.
And not only keeping up the Joneses, we have to keep up appearance. And the kids are taught or brainwashed from an early stage in life. It's all about this money.
Yes.
It's all about money. If you don't have money, you cannot survive. And you gotta have a lot of that money. And that is quality of life. Because if you don't have that money, you cannot have a good quality of life. That's the American lifestyle. And it's sad. The biggest car, the clothes you wear, who have the biggest breasts, who have the biggest butt, who have... No, seriously.
No,
it's like a competition for everything. And there's money involved. But at the end of the day, it's not even the American general public or people that are making the money. It's the corporate or these businesses that the money are funneling into. And people don't really think about stuff like that. And yes, Americans have this nasty way of things. Don't get me wrong. I really do love America and love here in Alaska where I'm living. Don't get me wrong. But Americans have this nasty habit of looking on you. And if you're not dressed a certain way, you don't look a certain way, you're not driving a certain kind of car, if you don't live in a certain kind of house, you don't got no money.
You ain't got nothing going on.
And if you don't look a certain way, you don't have no money. And the messed up part about this is that majority of the time is the one that look a certain way that do not have it. I don't understand, baby. You and I will walk into the bank, and because we look a certain way and dress a certain way, they won't give us a loan. But the next man who is a bum walking off the street and look a certain way will get that loan because he has the look.
Yep.
It is sad, but it's true. It's the reality, and you just have to grow to accept the way it is. And no, I'm ranting, guys, but it's just the truth.
It is. I just love, like, in all the videos that we've seen about Europe, the UK, London, France, there's such a higher quality of life. There's such a balance that the US does not have. Here it's work, work, work. There's no balance between your job and your family. And if I have to, like, live in a smaller house, like some Americans think, like, oh, you guys are poor, the fridge is small, this is small. In order to have more time for my family, I'm willing to do that. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Why have a big house but you can't be with your family?
But that doesn't determine your quality of life, whether you have those things or not. And that's what the Americans,
that's what they see,
fail to understand.
Yeah,
that's not what it is.
No.
Damn.
Or they're like sitting around eating bonbons, or they never want to buy some, Air Jordans or an American-sized fridge.
Yeah.
None of that. But there's one really big difference, I think, that we've seen, and that is Europeans tend to have a value system around personal time and a social system that around basic human needs that support well-being.
Yeah, those two things, they come together for a quality of life that might be really hard to value on a graph or a balance sheet, the way you could, the stuff maybe in your house could be captured.
Yeah.
And what does those two things look like in France? There's just a deep respect for your free time to be able to spend with family and to do things for pleasure or maybe just intellectual interest.
Yeah.
This might mean that businesses are open for fewer hours, that work weeks are a little shorter, and workers generally get 5 weeks of vacation per year. And this all adds up to like more time for meals with family, more, access to high quality food. These are all things that are seen as essential parts of life.
Yeah.
I'm also not up at night worrying about how am I going to pay and buy my insulin? How am I going to pay for my daughter's education going forward?
So, again, it's not that life is easy, but there's a sense of ease and safety that I feel here in France that was just missing in the US. And this peace of mind feels worth way more than that overpriced Pottery Barn comforter ever did in the US.
Yeah, wealth as the US glamorizes it with more and flashier stuff. It just doesn't look the same to me now. And overcoming the idea that no one anywhere does anything better than the US, that Americans are somehow freer, or that America is the only place to find a high quality of life. These are all just myths that living abroad has kind of dismantled for us.
Yeah. So, if you're hesitating to make the jump to live abroad, but it's your dream, don't let these internal beliefs that we as Americans kind of all get brainwashed into our whole lives. Don't let that stop you, because you know what? You're American. You're very optimistic. You can do anything. And sometimes that means moving. Thanks for watching.
A biento.
That is true. One thing Americans would do is pick up and leave. If they have to.
They're very optimistic. But you gotta give the US that. People are very optimistic here. That's true. They don't play. They'll go. They'll pick up and go from one state to the next. They're just like, okay, I can't be all over this. Books, I'm moving to another state. Just move up and go.
Canada.
I'll go to another country. Yeah, they'll move. And I like that. I like that about them. Don't get me wrong, there's so many pluses to America. I'm just saying the stuff that they point out and are the dream that are sold, are the myths that these myths, it's valid.
Yeah.
Explaining this stuff is really valid. I said a lot in my rant. So
you got stuff on your mind.
With that said, it's your girl Xee and Cyn, and we're running out of
Yes.
here. We hope you enjoy. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section.
Yes.
You know, what do you think? Do you think they're valid in what they say, or what we said? You think I'm like, no, girls, you got it all wrong? Let us know in the comment section. Be good, be kind, be safe out there. Don't forget to hit the like button on this one. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already.
Yep.
And let us know in the comment section what you'd like us to check out next. We got you. Love you guys. See you in another one. Bye.